So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hannah from the Blue Hill Library, and thank you all for joining us on this beautiful sunny May day. Even though Poetry Month technically ended yesterday, we wanted to keep the poetry fun going. So we're very excited today to have three wonderful poets from our own state of Maine. We've got Tim Ensworth, who is in Blue Hill, Nancy Hodermarsky from down on Deer Isle, and Helen Russo, who is in Kennebunk. So fortunately, through the magic of the internet, we are all able to join today. And we're going to have sort of brief readings from the three different poets with time in between each one that you can ask questions, and then we'll have continued time for discussion at the end of the program. So I believe that we're going to start with Tim. Tim is a retired United Church of Christ minister. Like I said, he lives in Blue Hill. He also sings with the Bagadoos Chorale and is on the board of directors for the Blue Hill Concert Association. And he's part of the Deer Isle Writers Group, which I think is how he heard about this event. So please welcome Tim, and I'll hand it off to you to get started.
Thank you, Hannah. May I say we're very fortunate to have a library like the Blue Hill Library in our community, fine and offering programs like this. I also must say that Hannah is very brave because she has not heard any of these poems, so she's not really sure what she's getting into. But having said that, I'm very grateful and honored to be able to be included in this program. I wanted to start today with a poem I wrote for my wife, because she's actually first on my mind today. Earlier this week, she was helping me carry a wooden bridge back into our woods, and she took a wrong step and fell and broke her leg. So my wife is currently in the hospital. So I didn't want to neglect remembering her first of all. So this is a poem I wrote for her this last Valentine's Day. Wild pink rose, solitary splash of color among the cedars. Unobtrusive, unassuming, without pretense, simply there, simply beautiful. Wild pink rose, surprising splash of color among the cedars. Untamed and untamable, free-spirited flower, blessed find, blessed beholder. Wild pink rose, seductive splash of color among the cedars. I first spied you there some 50 years past. Never forgotten, never will be forgotten. Wild pink rose, splendid splash of color among the cedars. Even Solomon in all his glory cannot compare. Still there, still found, still remembered, still and always in my heart. So that's for Lynn.
Beautiful.
The next poem is called Gift. It's all gift. Old tree stump beside the path, covered over with green moss, sprouts new spruce seedlings of deeper green from its top. Oaks and maples and birches along the road, dappled in ochre and magenta and burnt orange, offer a last lingering visual treat before long months of unrelenting gray. Fire in the heart, sparks and crackles, taking the edge off the chill and intimating deep mist gift. Eagle glides on still wings, surveying its edgeless domain. Seal soars for a magical moment above the waves before plunging back into the sea. Young girl soars on a backyard swing for a moment freed from ground and gravity. It's all gift. Young Misty speaks her name to crawdads and crows and creeks, and they speak theirs to hers, and the world is suddenly enlarged, and I don't want the novel to end. Young Sierra's fingers dance fantastically over the strings of her mandolin, and I don't want the music to end. Old man climbs down the tawny screed gully 9 miles and 3 summits in, and I don't want the hike to end. It's all gift. This earth, this life, my every breath.
Oh, love that.
This next one comes from, I wrote it recently, but comes from an experience a while back. I had been an active member of the Maine Appalachian Mountain Club whitewater paddling group. And a number of years ago, we took a trip to West Virginia and paddled rivers there in West Virginia. And this poem is about an experience I had paddling the Big Sandy River, in particular, an incident on a rapid called Little Splat. Silent and still and slow, very slow. Is this what it is like to die? Silent and still and slow, very slow. I am here for joy, for boulders, churning over drops and plunging into holes and piling up in frothy mounds. I am here for joy, for the joy of the dance. Pas de deux, me and the river, lean, glissade, pirouette. I'm here for joy, for the joy of comradeship. 8 days and 8 of us, 2,000 miles of road and 60 miles of stream, paddling and paddling some more, talking, paddling, and dreaming, paddling. I'm here for joy, for the joy of adventure. Zoom, Flume, and First Island, Little Splat, and Wonder Falls, launching boat and body over the lip of 18-foot Wonder Falls, exult. And now silent and still and slow. Very slow. Not able to breathe, but able to see. Not able to move, but able to feel. Feeling canoe and me stuck between rocks, between foot pegs and saddle. Able to think, but silent and still and slow, very slow. No panic, no terror, no dread. No self-pity, no despair, no regret. Only silence and stillness and slowness and watching myself from outside myself and wondering, is this what it is like to die? I try again to move and I am out. There will be no dying today. No second guessing or ruing or wishing myself somewhere else because I am here. Because I am here. Because I am here for joy.
Beautiful ending.
These next couple short poems come from our Deer Isle writers group. Nancy's been a longtime member of that group. Jane, who's here with us, has been a longtime member of that group. I'm a very new member of the group, but we meet every Tuesday morning. It's been by Zoom lately, but we meet at 9 o'clock and check in with each other for a half an hour. And somebody gives a prompt often, which is an idea for something to write about. Then we go away and write for an hour and a half and come back together and read what we've written. So these next couple short ones were poems that I wrote during some of those writing times with the Deer Isle Writers Group. The first one was inspired by looking out at the snow. And it's called, What If Snow Were Purple? What if snow were purple or pink or robin's egg blue, painting every spruce and fir with a pastel palette, pleasing perhaps, but pert. Too pert. Or what if snow were burnt umber or raw sienna or Van Dyke brown? A seamless segue from November's leaf-strewn landscape to the sucking sepia sloughs of March. But snow is white, wondrously, winsomely white, winter dressed like a bride, earth adorned in beauty and light, a promise made and kept. And the next one was weather related too, because it was raining outside. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day, little Johnny wants to play. Rain, rain, flow away, wash down into Blue Hill Bay, build the beach with silt and clay. Rain, rain, blow and spray, paint the world relentless gray, pound the oaks and birches flay. Rain, rain, grow the hay, feed the land, nourish our way. For your bounty, now we pray. Rain, 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 stay.
Great.
And this next one was a prompt that Frederica Marshall gave us. Frederica was supposed to read with us today, but is not able. But a couple weeks ago, she gave us a prompt and said, it was a line from one of her favorite poets. I don't remember the name of the poet, but she said, try to do something with this line. And the line was orange kittens in the applesauce. So it was a wonderful prompt. So, this was a poem I wrote in about 5 minutes called Orange Kittens. Orange kittens in the applesauce, blue turtles in the cake, yellow gerbils in the Brussels sprouts. It's all that I can take. I corral the kittens and tackle the turtles, but there's nothing to be done with the yellow gerbils. That was fun.
That's good.
How are we doing on time, Hannah? I've got a few more. Are we still okay for, I know we got started late.
It's okay to do a few more. I know we started late, but since we were down Frederica, I think the timing will work out okay.
Okay. A couple of occasional, this one was written after January 6th. It's called On Seeing the Half American, Half Confederate Flag Waved Above the Capitol Steps. It broke my heart seeing the hybrid flag, chimera, half stars and stripes, half Southern Cross, unholy marriage of the promise of human liberty and the obscenity of human bondage, as if the union Lincoln fought to preserve is no union at all, but only a monstrous amalgam of oxymoronic ideals. Or is my heart breaking because that is who we are? That was a kind of depressing poem, but this one was written last Easter. You can get the context as the beginning of the pandemic. Late winter snow blankets the ground, vernal pools lie still and frozen, but the sun rises. Existential dread blankets the globe, self-isolating households hunkered down, but the sun rises. Doubts claw at the edge of consciousness. What if what we have known, what we have been, what we have loved will never be the same? But the sun rises. An Easter dawns like no other Easter, subdued, unraveled, disoriented. No gathered voices raised in alleluias, the shadow of death lingering into morning. But the sun rises. And I'll finish with this one. This is, I was talking with Helen earlier. She was talking about her cat, and I said I have two dogs, two Australian Shepherds. One 15-year-old and one 6-year-old. This was a poem I wrote a while back for my older dog, Stony Bear, who was then 14, now my 15-year-old Australian Shepherd. I look into your dimpled eye and it draws me out of myself and into a place inscrutable and haunting and full of yearning. But for what? You're not like your brother who Tigger-like is everywhere at once, out there in your face, ring around the rosy. Here's my duck, here's my ball, wanna play? You are Alpha, first but not last in our hearts, Stonington Bear, named for a most favorite place, cold water and hard stone, gray granite ledges clung by spruce and cedar and rugosa, granite boulders huge beyond imagining, tossed and tussled on little McGlathery's outer shore. solitary, erratic, just there, as if it were always there, as if it will always be there, heedless of tide or my stare. Lynn captured a harbor porpoise mid-leap, frozen in her frame, but glistening, pulsating, wild. Once we paddled in mist, water's surface quiet and uncanny like glass, troubled only by the dip of our blades or the rising of a porpoise. It's a place that draws me out, draws me away, and brings me home. I look into your dimpled eye and it draws me. Is it wistfulness, resignation, distress, just old body weariness? Or do you just want to be loved without seeming too eager to draw me away, draw me in to you?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey, you're welcome.
So before we move on to our next reader, I want to invite anyone, if you have questions or thoughts that came up for Tim during his reading, to feel free to share them. We're a small group, so you can certainly unmute yourself and speak up, or if you're more comfortable typing it out, you can put it in the chat and I'll read it. Helen, why don't you?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I liked the energy, Tim. And just the wonderful, strong energy in your work. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah. I don't know how to get rid of this.
Oh, were you finished, Nancy?
Yeah.
Okay, I've just, Tim, this goes along with strong energy, but for me, each poem really elicited a particular strong emotion. And I've heard a couple of these before, but your, The Gift, maybe
Yes.
maybe I've only read it, but there was such tenderness. And of course, this, it was just so tender, very moving. And then the Little Splat River, that was so riveting. I mean, I would just admire your ability and your use of words to evoke such strong images. Glad you survived. Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
And I love the poem to your wife.
Oh yes, and that's, that's absolutely, that's another very moving, loving poem. Thanks.
Thank you.
The one about January 6th, I know you might say it was a little depressing, but it's reality. And you put that into words, into a short poem. You had it all right there. That was an excellent poem. And then the one about being on the rapids, you didn't notice it, but whenever you said that line about slow, there was something and slow, your bandwidth went out, so it had you going very slow. So it was so effective. It was just perfect.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's some Zoom specific art right there.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess so.
Yeah, Tim, I wanted to comment on I think you're a lovely reader. I really enjoyed, it's one thing to write, but it's another thing to be able to read. And, I wonder do you feel like your experience as a minister has shaped your sort of style as you read out your poetry?
I think so, but I think both directions. I think very, very definitely, but also in ministry or in doing sermons, I had oftentimes had a poetic sense. In other words, as a piece of poetry or piece of art. So I think it flows both directions. Both are creative ways of expression. So
yeah.
And both are trying to capture things that are difficult to capture in words.
Right.
That's the challenge. Words always don't work, and you try to do your best, but you don't always get there.
Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions they want to share with Tim at the moment? Right, then I think let's move on. We'll have Nancy read next. So Nancy,
I can't get rid of this.
You having trouble, Nancy?
It says pages update and I can't get rid of it.
Well, we're seeing and hearing you fine, so.
You can?
Yeah.
It's not in the way? Okay.
You want to just, yeah, go on faith that you're looking good and you can go ahead and read.
All right, I have a lot of poems here. So I'm going to start with a poem from my childhood. I was born in the Depression and grew up in the Depression. This was my neighborhood. The runner runs. In the corner lot of childhood, home base is the lid of a trash can. First, second, third, broken rocks. Summer suns trick the eyes. Home runs break some windows. And the stranger who stops to watch must be a big league scout. But he's just a photographer down on his luck, taking shots of kids, peddling them to parents, making a buck like the babushkas up from the projects with baskets, digging dandelions for dinner out of the green yards. In those pickup games, everyone plays. The best fielder at left or at shortstop. At right, the kid with his hands in his pockets. The troubles of home, beatings, drunks, depression, guns, serial trips to crazy farms, forgotten. When the bat hits the ball, the runner runs. Until the streetlights come on. The summons home comes. Children call to each other, so long, see you tomorrow, plunging out from the field through bindweed and thistle, like blind grasshoppers jumping. And then we'll go crossing the causeway to Deer Isle, and it's such a beautiful experience. It's the way between here and there, and I love crossing the causeway. When my eyes were young, I saw trees on the Camden Hills across the bay. Small houses, cars in motion, clear as the Camden Hills, I'd say. Confident of my direction, whether it was a going out over Caterpillar Hill or a coming home when the moon was full. Today I cross where the wind heightens the water spin against rocks, a journey of turnings, of swift cloud crossings, sudden light. I am caught in the curve against curve of a narrowing road with bright salt flowers wild in the cracks.
Lovely.
Thank you. I love all the seasons in Maine. So spring moves in. This was written March 31st, 2003, it looks like, or five, okay. A flurried snow under the astrakhan, from hooves of deer, or snow slipping off branches. The white field beyond, porcelain, below freezing in the 5 a.m. dawn. Yet That sliver of light on the eastern rim signals winter is done. The temperature rises 12 degrees in the next 2 hours. Spring moves in, and deep frost loosens its hold on the maples. The sap is running. A cleansing light whitens the birches from white from snows piled high for weeks by plows. Brown hillsides emerge out of the dirty ice. By noon, mud season tracks up the dooryard, crosses the threshold without wiping its feet. We sit together in the kitchen, companionably, drinking sun. The next one, let's see, did I skip one here? Calendula. Then comes summer and some flower poems. This one is on calendula. Like Buddhist monks from dust and sturdy for the journey, petal by petal by petal unfolding out of dry fountains and silvered green sorrows into flowers, red, saffron yellow, and orange. A merriment beyond climate and season, light beyond wisdom. Echocardiogram. Our first full fall here. And my husband had a heart attack. And part of the process of getting ready for a bypass, he had an echocardiogram. Echocardiogram. That muscle squishing on the screen, is it a four-eyed potato? So lumpish, yet incredibly sly from blinking away 70 years of secrets inside him. Or is it a fish from primordial ooze, sucking through muck until it grows limbs to slish slosh through life in a leaky pair of fisherman's boots? Or is it St. Peter hanging upside down, still alive, waving to him with broken wrists, keeping time? Take heart, I am here, dying for you, but oh, so slowly. Autumn. Summer winds off of diminishing suns. Ice needles the lawns, and nights grow larger. Autumn comes, stacks wood in the barn, latches the windows, mounts outer doors. It makes soup in the kitchen, then hunkers down to listen for winds in the chimney, fires in the stove, the humming of pumps. Autumn listens for snow in the dooryard, for the visits of ghosts for words about loss. Autumn, the storm door that keeps nothing in and nothing out. Roomy on a quiet Saturday. We open the door out of silence. The poet of Konya dances our home. We wrap his delight around us. He is the fullness, and we the bowl. The snow is falling slow. He wakens to the same dream at the tail end of night, rises to take a piss, drink his coffee at dawn. The snow is falling slow, so like the years that float before him, winding down his irregular heart. The pain in his shoulder eases out as he lifts the hot cup to his lips and thinks about the soft snow shrouding the ground, soon to melt by itself. No need for him to find the shovel in the barn. Coffee warms his gullet, stomach, bowels, and he muses upon the dream that leads him out of sleep. A hillside, vast in sun, extending far, far beyond his eye, a high blue sky, and all his family wide-armed to welcome him. The here-ness of it all. He had a large family, and they all predeceased him. And he loved them so. It was a very loving family. And all his family wide-armed to welcome him. The here-ness of it all.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah. This is the Reach Me Down Fields is the title. Reach Me Down Fields. Who will enter that house with all the painted woodwork, the coffin in the dining room, the stove cold in the kitchen, Aunt Agnes darning socks? Who will be wrapped in a rug as an oriental coat? Hear children's laughter in the attic among the ladybugs, or find that salad bowl mislaid but never lost. Out there tonight, apple trees hide stars among their leaves, stirring the rich and dark into lighted passageways. And the moon falls silver onto Reach Me Down Fields. The grieving, blue cloud larkspur, a flower that recedes itself. Who knows about the tears behind the blue of eyes, or the feathering out of sorrows at the corners of life, or the yearning for anon and again, the springing up from shallow roots, from stock and stem, from webs of green fragility into an amazement of stars blue struck suns, skies beyond skies. In another winter, she thought she was doing fine until near the end of the storm. The northeast wind came up strong where she was sitting under an overhead light. Last year's letters and cards overwhelming her lap. She would have to write those friends, tell them she hadn't read their words, their poems, that she wasn't sorry at all, just astonished about who she was when she had hoped to hush all that unopened sorrow in a cardboard box. Now, she let their words like wind rouse the storm in her heart. He was here, would always be here in this room, his presence a sea smoke rising at dawn in another winter. How I cross over. I am awake on the ocean of night, breathing without wisdom to give to the morning. I float on the prayers of Rumi. Now I lay me down to stay awake. I pray the Lord my soul to take into your wakefulness. Not yet out of self, of lists, of sorrows, I fare on vowels, row beyond the hours. On to other summers, more blue cloud larkspur, sunlit sky in the east, a day to water seeds planted yesterday. This is the words day. New heat rising to warm old bones, to move on to surprises. A world made new by slender slip-ditch discoveries, pushing through turned soil and rising into long-stemmed blues, iridescent, fleeting. My grandson came to visit, the little boy, when he was little, hand in hand. Grandma, when did you begin to walk so slow? Asked Andres. We climbed from the shore hand in hand. It is June, thieving birds among green leaves, and I am a child, gladly on my knees, tying a shoe under a cherry tree. Grandfather, straight-backed, three-piece suit, straw hat, is unable to bend down. When you were born, I say, I carried you in my arms. Andres nods, turns, tugs us up the rise. Into his hands, I commend myself. And finally, without mortar. Without mortar. We build our lives stone upon stone, the balance found by the mason within us, who knows the shape and the heft of each stone to be set. And yet, life's not found in solidity, but in all the interstices, the openings in silence to the universe. That's it.
Thank you, Nancy.
I had fun.
Well, we had fun listening.
Okay.
You have a wonderful way of painting a picture with your words.
Thank you.
I love the one about the baseball game, and the roomy one was short, but very sweet.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions for Nancy or thoughts you want to share from her reading? I loved the rhythm of the seasons that you gave us, Nancy. It really felt like we had a chance to go through the year, all the different seasons. I was glad you structured it that way.
That's what it's like living in the country, right?
I like the twists or surprises that often come in the last line or two. There's kind of a narrative, and then there's a twist that just kind of ties it together at the end and takes you somewhere else. I like the way that you do that, Nancy.
Thank you, Tim.
Nancy, it's just such a pleasure to hear you read so many of your poems. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jane.
Yeah, wonderful. I especially liked your grandson poem, Hand in Hand.
Yes, it's wonderful, and you've got one you're taking care of. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you again, Nancy.
Thank you, Hannah.
And yeah, I think we can move on to our final reader for the afternoon, which is Helen Russo. Helen, we're moving further and further away from the Blue Hill Library. So we started in Blue Hill, and then we went to Deer Isle, and then Helen's down in Kennebunk. And she is an ordained interfaith minister and was also a Catholic nun for 30 years. So spirituality has always been central to her life. She was trained in the Amherst Writers and Artists method to lead writing groups, and currently she sees her ministry as writing and leading writing groups, which she's done for the last 12 years. And her she's got some published books. Her first book is called Coming to the Edge, 50 Poems for Writing and Healing. And her latest, which just came out recently, is called Poems for a World on Fire, Meditations on Hope. So I'm not sure which of those collections, maybe a little bit of both we'll get to hear from, but why don't you take it away, Helen?
Thank you so much. You said everything I wanted to say, so I'll go right into the first poem. I listened to a, excuse me, a Krista Tippett blog when she was interviewing Naomi Shihab Nye. Naomi Shihab Nye is a fabulous poet. But what Naomi was saying about poetry is that you can find poetry everywhere, even in the smallest spaces. And sometimes that's what a poem is about. It's about one moment, maybe, or it's about one experience. And so I wrote a poem after I heard that interview. It's called Poetry in the Paradox. There's poetry in the paradox of this thing we call life, sometimes named a path or a journey, where we confront new life and sudden death, ecstatic joy from a well of grief, a house left behind to find home within. I've never looked at sunrises without feeling a sense of new beginnings, or at sunsets without knowing the darkness comes too soon. I learned that finding my voice has no meaning unless someone is listening. I write the truth of who I have become and read my stories to the inner child waiting for her freedom. So very often we write poems. I write a lot of poems for myself, and then in reading the poems and sharing the poems, I find that other people have experienced the same things. And we just celebrated Earth Day. And so I'm going to read a poem called The Grief of the Earth. The grief of the earth rises through our bodies, spills out through our eyes. She no longer can tolerate the destruction of her glorious body, her rivers and streams, her animals and plants, and of us, her beloveds. We have seen the decline in animal species and habitat, pollution of water and air, the migration of millions seeking a better way to live, and yet we persist in our ways. She sent a 16-year-old prophet who didn't mince her words, who was listened to by the masses, but not by her leaders. And here we are today in a trial by fire, a pandemic loosed upon the earth. She now has our attention, begging us to act while there is still time. Will we listen? I first began pulling these poems together, Poems for a World on Fire, when Greta Thunberg spoke to the United Nations, and that's what she said, our world is on fire. And so I started pulling poems together and writing a lot of poems about the earth, about the environment, about animal habitat. And then the coronavirus came along, and then I just kept writing poems about that. So basically this book is about the earth, and it's also about the coronavirus. This one is called A Paradox. Hummingbirds sip the nectar from the feeder provided them. Squirrels run to and fro, chasing each other and raiding the bird feeders. Rory, my black cat, sleeps in the sun, knowing only comfort. Hospitals are overburdened, loved ones die alone. Fear, a great motivator for wearing masks and social distancing. Yet some choose self over the greater good. Let safety begin with me. Love guide my every choice as I keep moving with hope toward a better future. This I believe, we are one community who will survive or perish together. And I call this Meditations on Hope. My book is divided into 3 sections. One is challenges, one is courage, and one is hope. Because we cannot go through these times without hope. No way. This is called a Mary Oliver walk. Mary Oliver is one of my favorite poets. And you know how Mary Oliver, she writes in those little spaces. It might be about a frog on a log, or it might be a bird in a tree. From these small experiences, she writes great wisdom because she's observing with her eyes. So this is called the Mary Oliver walk. I'm taking a Mary Oliver walk this splendid September morning. Only the usual animals in this neighborhood, squirrels and chipmunks, but they give me pause. They bring me to the awareness how all beings fight for their lives. Even the spider I took from the tub with a piece of cardboard and gently laid outside. The neighbors' gardens delight me as I try to identify the many different flowers blooming there, sweetly placed near the sidewalk for passersby to admire. For these few minutes, I can drink in beauty in the life around me. Thank the flowers for their colors, shapes, speak to the strong trees, and thank them for their shade. All this is a part of the whole of life, even the trees burning in California, the animals displaced or dying from forest fires out of control, the yin and yang of existence on this earth, what has always been and always will be, as we move slowly but steadily to a gentler, more conscious approach to life and each other. And that's not only my hope, that is my belief. I do believe we are moving toward a gentler world. Sometimes we have to work through chaos to get to that, but it's worth it. This one's called The Robin. She didn't move as I walked by, so I stopped and spoke to her. You are so beautiful, I said. She spread her wings, but didn't fly away. Maybe she's caught in the brambles, I thought. So I asked her. I watched as she jumped from branch to branch to let me know she was all right. She looked very pregnant with new life, just as I had been before I delivered the book that is now alive on its own. She flew up to another branch and began singing. I was close enough to see her beak move with song. I thanked her for singing, and she sang some more. Back and forth we went with thank you and song. With a full heart, I walked away as she flew to secret places where her song is cherished by the earth and for a moment in time by me. And I'm aware of the time, so it's 3 o'clock. I'll read one more. It's called On This Beach. And that's one of the great gifts of Maine, is that we have so many beaches and lakes and water. Let me die on this beach, low tide, easy walking, sun still warming my face on this first September day. Let me forever hear the lapping of the waves, music in my ears like none other, calling me to stay here and rest, return to my original home. No loneliness or sense of loss as I feel the embrace of the tides and salt air. As I breathe free and release all that does not bring me peace, changing fear to trust, holding on to letting go. I want to rise like that kite and fly. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. That's a great one to end on. Does anyone have anything they want to share with or ask Helen before we wrap up? And we can also open it up to, conversation among the three of you. And
I love the way Helen is looking forward. And, we are community, and that wish for the 20th century that we will be community.
Yes.
And I also love the one on the robin, and wishing the robin so well, and the robin does well. And it reminds me of a friend of mine who stopped to admire a garden, and she talked to the flowers, and then the flowers said to her, "You should see the gardener."
Well, last year, my theme is hope. And around my apartment, there are all these little rocks, they go out about 3 feet all around the apartment. And so we don't have weeds, but we do have weeds. But last summer, out of those rocks started growing this one little flower, and it kept growing, and it grew up to about 2 feet, and they had 3 yellow flowers on it. And I said, now that's hope. That's perseverance, you know? And those kind of things, nature and the power of nature, and the nature keeps going. It refreshes me and renews me a lot.
I love the way you look forward.
Thank
You're
you.
always looking forward. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Wonderful.
I especially liked the Robin poem too. I liked that the intimacy of that poem, and just the whole world was just you and the Robin for a moment.
Yes, yeah.
Sharing that space.
It was a very transformative moment, definitely.
I like the pregnant with the book line. That was good.
Thank you.
Maria, did I see you have your hand up a moment ago? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to share anything.
Hey, no, I was clapping. That's the reaction for clapping.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And I was just gonna leave this little message to you guys because I didn't want to interrupt, but this is just what I needed today. So I put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I'm so bummed that I missed the first person. I'm cleaning my house here in Blue Hill, and I just got swept up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, hop on the Zoom. So I'm wondering, Hannah, if there's a way. I know in the Facebook there was like a link to Helen's book, I believe. If there's a way to capture some of these poems, because I'd love to read them again. They're just so delicious. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Maria, we did record today, so I'll send out the link to everyone on the list once I get that uploaded later today. So you can catch Tim's reading as well. And yeah, I know, Helen, where is your book available? What's the best way to?
Yeah, on my website at helenrusso.com.
Oh, Helen, I'm definitely going to purchase a copy. I just think it's so timely. I work in healthcare. I don't,
Oh, yes.
I'm not a nurse or a doctor, but I work with nurses and physicians and other providers every day. And everybody's so weary.
Yes.
So thank you for writing. Yes.
Thank you.
And Greta is definitely a prophetess. I'm just going to say that. So thanks.
And Tim and Nancy, I think you guys had been saying you don't necessarily have anything published, but is there ways that folks can hear more of your work or learn more about you?
I don't know how. I write for my own pleasure, really. So,
well, you have some beautiful poetry.
My daughters say that they're going to take over. So we'll see. I have 2 daughters.
Well, I think that makes it all the better that you joined us today, so we could all share in some.
Yes, thank you so much.
I write for my own pleasure, really, and they expect to do something.
Tim, did you have anything you wanted to share about how folks can hear more of your work?
Well, none of it's published, but I do have a blog that I often post. I post to occasionally. It's called it's believersjournal.org. I can put that in the chat.
Great. Yeah, and I know that Tim and Nancy are both part of the Deer Isle Writers Group. So if folks are interested in that, I think Frederica Marshall is maybe the person to contact.
It's open to anyone. I mean, who likes to write. It's a wide open group.
Great.
Are you meeting on Zoom right now?
Yes.
Do you know when you're going to be meeting back in person?
Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's vaccinated. That's great.
But just to again say, the group is open. We are always happy to have someone come once, twice, stay. So, and I'm actually fairly new. I think it's just 2 years. It's been a wonderful, very nurturing group.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for this really wonderful reading. It was such a breath of fresh air. I'm a poet, and since everything has happened this year, and it's been sad not to be able to go to readings, and so this was just really exactly what I needed today. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Me too. I just want to say I've been outside and put my timer on, and this has just been it's just been so inspiring, really. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you everyone for coming and giving your attention and your time, and to all our readers. Hope everyone will keep writing and reading and enjoying these words.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah.
And Hannah, I understand you're going to Bangor?
I am. Yeah, actually today's my last day working here, and then I start a new job up at the Bangor Library next week.
Oh, wow.
You guys are my last library program at the Blue Hill Library.
Oh.
Wonderful. Good luck with that.
Yes,
Yeah,
take care.
It's a lovely library up there, but we'll miss you down here.
I know. Well, I'll still be living on the peninsula, so I'm sure I'll see you all around as things open up again.
Yeah.
Well, everyone go enjoy this beautiful sunshine. Get back outside, and thank you all for coming.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.